Today's video is special for two reasons. First of all, it's my Art Deco Furniture Challenge. A few times over on Instagram, I host a furniture flipping challenge and I invite fellow flippers to come and flip a piece with me. This year, I've decided to go by furniture eras, and my first era is Art Deco. The other reason why it's special is because the piece I'm refinishing is my sister's. You know, growing up, it was just her and I. She's 15 months older than I am. And so it's just us, no brothers, no other sisters. And so we were close growing up. And so my mom used to dress us alike, like we were twins. I was like, Mom, we're not twins. But we had a great time growing up, played together. We weren't your typical girls because my dad was a big sci-fi fan. And so we would play with Star Wars figurines, and my dad loved Star Trek, and we loved Little Adventure People. And so we liked playing with the boys in our neighborhood a lot more than we liked playing with the girls. And so they were more fun and less drama. She has a half-decade birthday. I won't say how old she is. Actually, she's 55. Isn't that a little sister for you? Shannon, now everyone knows you're 55. Anyway, I'm refinishing it for her birthday. And so a little early birthday present, but it's such a fun piece. She really just wants it restored. We have some ideas and some things, but I don't know, what it all entails until I get it stripped down. So let's go.
So here's the buffet. It is a beautiful Art Deco style. Obviously you can see there's a lot of damage on the top, a failing finish, lots of stains. That one concerns me. I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to get that one out, but really cool piece. I think there's some beautiful things hiding underneath all of that finish. So the plan is I'm just gonna strip it and see what she wants to do, because she's not exactly sure. We don't know what's under it. So, sometimes on these pieces, I paint a portion of them because there's all kinds of different wood. You just never know, until you strip it, the different types of wood. So it's been toned to kind of be the same, but I have a feeling the trim is probably a different color. So I'm just going to have to dive in, take all the hardware off, and see what we can find.
So what makes this Art Deco? Well, let me point out a few features. Obviously, the first one would be the waterfall edge. That's very much Art Deco. And then if you'll notice the handles, this is like I think it's called Bakelite. It has this amber area in the middle, very much Art Deco. And then it's also really known for geometric patterns. You can see the veneer is in a geometric form. And then the carvings on the door, you would definitely see this in Art Deco motif of the time.
I'm going to start by taking all of the hardware off. I won't clean it right away since I'm stripping it. I will clean it all later. But as I'm taking it off, there was a screw that was stripped. So I had to get my multi-tool out and cut it off. Then I had to try to dig out that screw. Now I tried a screw extractor. I have tried this multiple times. I'm obviously doing something wrong. You're supposed to burnish it and then reverse it and pull it out. It didn't work. So I just have my drill bit, and I'm just going to drill around the screw and then use my needle nose pliers and pull it out. It worked, but I still left with a hole. So I'm going to use a little dowel and put that in there, and that will just fill up that void so that I have something to screw into when I reattach the hinge. I'm using Smart Strip Advance. This is a product by Dumont. They're one of the sponsors of the challenge. The first place winner will get a prize package worth about $150 from Dumont. So this is a really great stripper. I like to use it because I don't have to use my respirator with it. It's low VOC and it actually works. A lot of the eco strippers don't actually work. So I leave it, kind of let it do its thing for about an hour or so, and then I'm going to come back with my carbide scraper. I'm barely putting any pressure on it. I'm using it more like a putty knife, but I'm just trying to get as much of that finish off as I can. once I've done my main scraping, then I'll come back with, you can see I'm using a soft wire brush, and then I have some acetone that I've just decanted in a little jelly jar, and that's going to help me get a lot of that stripping residue off. So I'll use that with some paper towels first, because paper towels are cheaper, and then I'll come back with some 2/0 steel wool and really just try to get as much of that finish off as I can. Now I'm going to do the same procedure on the top. I've let it set, do its thing, come back with my carbide scraper, get down to raw, because I don't want to just get the top coat on, I need to get down to raw. There's that really dark stain. You can see that thankfully it was just in the finish. And so it's, once I took the finish off, there's no stain. Yay. So that's really good news. Once that's dried, I'm ready to go ahead and sand through the grit. So I always like to start at 80 grit on any areas that still have some finish left on it. So you see there's just a lot of varying wood tones. So there's a lot of finish left. You can see I really want to get it to where it's uniform, no shininess, no discoloration. So it's going to all be the same color. That's what I'm going for. So the 80 grit's going to be my toughest sand. And then after that, I go to 120 and then 180. And those are a lot faster because I'm not having to get any finish off. I'm just really refining my scratch pattern. I use my Dremel multi-tool. It has a great attachment. Not only did it, cut off that screw, but that it has this attachment that is a sander, and it gets into these tiny little areas. So once everything's sanded through 180, then I'm going to clean it with a 50-50 mixture of denatured alcohol and water. I'm just looking for any additional areas that maybe I missed. Make sure there's no more finish. Everything looks really good. You can see when I put a little bit of liquid on, there's a lot of different woods going on. So I'm going to have to get with my sister and see what she wants to do. So I'm going to go through the same procedure on the sides. Now for the sides and for the top, I will go ahead and use my Fest tool on 80, and I'm just going to do a rough sand. And then I'll hand sand at 80, and that'll get rid of any swirl marks. Then I'll move up to 120, and then I'll finish at 180. ready to get my sanding contours out, and I'm going to try to find one of those that matches the profile that I'm trying to sand. And then I'll wrap my sandpaper around it and just start sanding. So, you can use Dremels here, but I find sometimes that Dremels can be a little aggressive. And, I don't want to sand the profile away. You have a nice rounded area, and if you sand too aggressively, you just lose, a lot of that profile. So I try to be really careful, and that's why I do like to hand sand a lot of these detailed areas. I have some areas on the doors that do need some correction. So I'm going to start with Mohawk's wood epoxy. You just cut off how much you think you'll need, and then you're going to mix it together until it's a uniform color. And then you will apply it, kind of leave it a little proud, kind of leave it a little bit off from the surface. And then once that dries, then you'll sand it back. And then I will have to come back and color correct it to the surrounding wood. So now I'm ready to do some of my color correction. I'm going to just kind of put some liquid on the wood surrounding, so I have an idea of what I'm trying to match to, because my goal is just to oil this. I'm not going to do a stain, so I'm going to do my color correction first, seal it, and then I'll go ahead and oil it. And I might have to come back later and do some additional color correction, but I want to try to get to the color of what the wood would look like once it's oiled. So that's why I put the liquid on there. I'm trying to match that as best as I can. These are Mohawk Blend-All sticks. You just kind of layer them, use the heat from your fingers just to kind of push them into the wood, kind of blending them in. I like to work in layers, and then between your layers, you're going to seal it with a vinyl sealer. If I have a large area that I've put the putty on, I like to kind of do some little hashes with my knife, and that just kind of replicates the wood grain, so it's not just a flat piece of wood putty. Now I'm going to continue sanding on the frame. I like to make sure I get a sand all the way around the interior of the frame as well. And then I'll go in on the details and get everything sanded as best as I can before I go on to either staining or oiling. This is honestly the tedious part. So, you know, again, the 80 grit is my hardest sand because I'm really trying to get as much of the finish off as possible. So yes, it's tedious, but if you don't do a good sand, when you go to oil it or you go to stain it, it'll look really mottled. And so I like to try to get as much as I can off the finish so that it looks as good as it possibly can when I apply the finish. I'm doing the same process on the top. I've already done an 80 grit with my sander. I'm going to come back and hand sand at 80 grit. Again, I'll move up to 120 and then I'll stop at 180. Then I'll pause and see how I'm going to finish it. And I'm really noticing now that I have a pretty big variation in my wood tones.
Okay, let's have a little chat about where we're at. I have sanded the top all the way down. It's looking really good. The only problem is I had one area that looks like veneer is really thin right there. So it's not, I'm gonna have to fill that in. That was already existing. The stain is pretty good. I have a little bit of give in the veneer over here, I noticed. See, there's a little bit of give right there. It's tiny, but I'm gonna glue that down. Now what I'm running into is that I've got different woods. If you'll notice here, if I spray this on, see how mottled that is? This wood is just not as pretty. So this is beautiful. This is all different. This is different. It's different than the doors. Let me show you what the doors look like. This is the doors. It's beautiful. That's obviously going to be very dark, but it's still pretty too. Oops, dropping everything. But you see how I've just got different woods going on. So I have a call into my sister because if I just oil, she really wanted to just oil the whole thing, but I don't think that's going to work. So I had already talked to her about what she wanted to do on the finish, and we talked about maybe painting sections of it, maybe doing some additional things, but she decided, her and her husband decided they don't want to do anything, they don't want to paint it, they just want to keep it natural. So I have a text into her because this is not going to look good just oiled. So I was at Woodcraft yesterday and I picked up my Osmo. This is the hard wax oil that I love to use. And I've been wanting to try this wood wax finish. This is in the color Cognac. And so I happened to pick it up just to use on a different project, but I think it might actually work on this project because what this is basically colored hard wax. And so you can use it full strength or you can use it very thinly and use it as a stain as well. And then you seal with this over it. So I think it'd be a really good solution for those side pieces that just aren't as pretty as the other veneer. So we'll see what she says, but I'm trying to get it all finished sanding today and then maybe take it inside because we have a cold snowstorm coming. And so for Oklahoma, maybe 4 inches, which is a lot for us. But it's supposed to be super cold, so I need to take it inside, but this is low VOC, so I could do this inside. So I've got some decisions to make, trying to hurry up and finish my final sanding, and then we'll see what she says.
I'll go ahead and glue up that corner, clamp it up. These are great clamps I got at Harbor Freight, and it allows you to kind of clamp up a long area. This will be it before I move it inside to finish it.
So that's part one. Now we're going to move into the challenge part, and this is where I need your help. The challenge ends today, and I have 3 judges who are going to help me narrow it down to the top 3. And then I need you to come to my post tab on YouTube here, and I want you to vote for your favorite. So I'm going to keep the poll up for 3 days, and then next week I will announce the winner. So here's all of the befores. Come to my post tab next Monday through Wednesday. I'll keep it out until Wednesday to vote for your favorite. And then I'll conclude my piece next Saturday and then announce the winners of first, second, and third place. Thanks for watching.